So look, in most states, getting fired for violating a company's policies keeps you from getting unemployment benefits. But 5 states have carved out an exception for people out of a job because they would not comply with this vaccine mandate. Arkansas, Florida, Iowa, Kansas, and Tennessee all passed legislation that will allow people who defy company vaccine mandates and find themselves without a job because of it to get unemployment benefits. 3 others are thinking about similar exemptions. Harry Nelson is the founding partner of the largest healthcare and life science law firm in Los Angeles. He joins us now. And Harry, what do you think here? The obvious question is this an incentive to defy these mandates?
I wouldn't say that it's an incentive. It's not. The states are not intending to motivate people not to get vaccinated. But I think there's a signal that's trying to be sent by these 5 states, and I think we're going to see many more states, particularly Republican-led states, trying to show people that they have support for making personal choices, right? I think we're in a battle right now between the public health camp, which is pushing for everybody to be vaccinated, and this personal liberty camp, I'll call it, on the not a classic anti-vaccine camp, but so I think these states are trying to just say that they're standing with people who are making a personal liberty choice not to be vaccinated rather than trying to motivate them. I don't think the states want people to stay unvaccinated. They're just trying to protect their right to make that personal choice.
Right, and because who wants to be out of a job? Nobody goes in intending to be out of, I mean, very few people would. There are certainly those who would say, yes, I will get fired to stand up for this. But, we had this conversation where we were talking about a labor shortage of people who were sitting on their couches and getting a larger unemployment check than they would at their job. And there was a lot of conversation about whether that was a legitimate argument to make, because how many people really are motivated by that? A lot of people have pride in their work. Do you think there's a challenge to be had here in the courts for these kinds of state laws that carve out this exemption?
Look, we have a federal doctrine of federal supremacy, right? That federal law ultimately carries the day and states can't make contrary laws. It's important to recognize that a lot of the state laws are covering different territory than the federal law. The big question coming up before the Supreme Court on January 7th is this federal mandate for businesses over 100. Is that legal, right? Are we going to see 5 Supreme Court justices stand behind that? It's going to be very interesting, but there's still a lot of state laws, limiting mandates for smaller sized businesses, for government agencies that in theory could stand in spite of the federal mandate. So, ultimately the federal government has the last word, but it's going to be very confusing for people in many, many states that have to make sense of what category they fall in. Our phones are ringing off the hook with people confused about what state and local laws apply to them and our federal laws in force with court challenges. It's not an easy time for anybody to figure out what's going on.
Are you clear on where you go? I mean, when you pick up a phone and answer those questions, do you have to source material all the time, or do you have some clear guideposts on what applies where?
We spend a lot of time harmonizing, going back and checking to make sure that, here in California, that there's nothing new coming out at the state level from Sacramento, that the laws are different county to county, working in Los Angeles versus in surrounding counties, and of course federally. So we have to, as lawyers, we are constantly monitoring this and trying to figure out what categories people fit into. This is not an easy time. No one's made this easy, and unfortunately, I think anybody who cares about complying needs to be paying attention to a lot of different sources with regularity. I mean, frequently checking back.
Yeah, you mentioned this mandate from the federal level that through OSHA, people who employ more than 100 employees have to have them vaccinated. That's going to be challenged in the Supreme Court next week. Do you think as we get to OSHA's deadline on vaccination there, we're going to see a massive round of layoffs or firings?
I don't expect that we're going to see massive layoffs. I think that there are going to be employers. I'm hearing from employers who are going to take their chances and stand behind employees who are uncomfortable. I think that most employers are going to be standing with their employees, particularly in places where there's a substantial number of people. We're in the middle of a workplace shortage, and it's really tough to imagine that we're going to see massive rounds of layoffs where lots of people are worried about the vaccine.
Yeah, and you think about the kind of power that labor unions have right now, and it would be really interesting to see how the Biden administration reacts to this, because you think about OSHA's enforcement, right? And if you require somebody in a certain work environment to have a hard hat on, and an employer is not having them put their hard hats on, there would be some kind of OSHA enforcement there. So it may be sort of contradictory if OSHA doesn't follow up on vaccine mandates, right?
It's a good question. You're asking a tough question. It's very tough. I think nobody wants to be getting attention and fined by the government or getting the media attention that follows for non-compliance. So I do think that you're going to see some employers very sensitive. I think this is a divide where larger employers are going to be much more worried about what the government's going to do, and a lot of small businesses are going to just take their chances. That's my guess. But I think the Biden administration is not in a great territory for this to resolve this issue. I think it's a lot of tough decisions ahead.
Harry Nelson, it's fascinating. I spent too much time with you, and I'm going to be in trouble with the producers because of it, but it's so fascinating. That's why we spent so much time here. I appreciate it, sir. We'll be right back.